Hi, I'm Jacob de Guzman-Lawson. I am the founding partner of Screwdriver.
And I'm Jessica Lausell, the senior partner at Screwdriver.
We're going with that one.
Okay,
we're going with
one more.
No
You
more.
say-
No
you
more.
say,
No more.
I'm the and I'm the because that's what we're giving right now.
No more. And just we'll get into it. But this is a fun conversation.
This is kind of
Ask me again if I ever had Gee Whiz energy. Why are you laughing?
that was a camera again.
Okay. How
I got it.
it's weird. We're like, obviously it's being recorded, but like, what is the real difference that makes it so
Well, it was gonna be
scary?
It was gonna be fine, but then you were like, "Ask me again."
Oh,
This
okay.
is actually, I was like,
Okay.
it's kind of funny.
Oh, sure,
I was
sure,
like,
sure.
I was so ready to keep going. You're like, wait, do it again.
The audience needs a natural end to the conversation.
No, I was gonna say, I feel like I am asking you the question, but I mean it in a more malleable sense of like, not like gee whiz, because I don't suspect that that's what it was. But I feel like
you don't suspect I had the sort of like
no. But I think you woke up today and you were like, all right, this ain't that bad.
like today, like I wake up and I reboot the program of misery
Yeah.
and just go like, okay, let's remember who you are, what you're like. Here's what you do.
Taylor Tomlinson had a joke, and I'm gonna watch it again. But she was talking to the Gen Z in the audience or whatever, and she's like, "You're not gonna get this joke." She's like, "This is for the millennials." And she's like, "Don't you just wake up every day and look in the mirror and you're just like, ugh. And she's like, can't disappoint my mom and Bob."
Well, I guess for me it's like, and maybe this speaks to an earlier Gee Whiz, like, and yes, don't get me wrong, like I do have issues or feelings of living up to your parents' expectations. Obviously, I do. And most people do. I think for me, it's more like I look in the mirror and I sort of think of like, did that kid think this was what was going to happen? You know, like the 10-year-old me, like if you asked him, like, sealed it, people write letters to their future selves and all that kind of thing, put it in the time capsule.
Yeah.
They dredge it up. Like, what would he have like suspected?
Well, I mean, you were him.
What would have happened? And I'm really curious. Because I don't know if I had Gee Whiz, I was a lot sillier, I think.
I think you're still kind of silly.
As a kid. What's a good silly Jacob example?
Oh.
Like if we have to sort of like
I just had like a compilation play in my head. Like you asked that question and I had a compilation that was just, all I heard was the laugh.
I could cut to so many clips of me watching movies with Mihai
And
where I just
laugh.
just the cackle.
How is it gonna chase them after eating John Voight?
It's gonna puke him out.
Oh, f off.
Look. Oh, that was beautiful.
I mean, especially me. We've had this conversation that you're like, something that I do enjoy about you is like, I never know what the f you're gonna say next.
I truly never do. Because we could be talking about Dracula, for example, and then next thing you know, we're on to like some sort of like nanobot like that's going to go into our bloodstream. And I'm like, wait, hold the fort. What just happened? How did we get here? And sometimes I won't realize it until we're like
deep in
I'm like, and I have to sort of like reverse engineer the beginning of the conversation where I'm like, like what's going on here? It doesn't.
But I think that like relationships, platonic or otherwise, like what we miss in those people or what we enjoy in those people are the parts of ourselves that are reflected in them that we don't always act on or like. And so I feel like I'm such a like,
sure.
And so I feel like that's why I see you so silly, because part of our relationship is like I feel like I bring the silly out in you a little bit, and then you bring the more like business, like serious artistic side out in me.
You're just saying all I do is just like
well,
on your childlike wonder.
I think I'm smarter since we've been friends, just purely because you're an orb of knowledge, and I'm just like.
I was actually talking to Charlene yesterday. I forget what we were doing, but she said something where she was like, "That's so stupid." She's like, "I've been talking to you too much."
Yeah.
And I said the same thing happened
Yeah,
to you.
it did.
Where I forget what movie, some movie, and you were like, "Yeah, this movie was f***ing shit," and you're like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah. I was like, hold the fort.
But you know
that
what?
phrase right there.
Hold the fort. But you know what? The movie was probably
Yeah.
Most movies are.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about how we make movies. No, most movies are really bad.
Well, but look, 10-year-old Jacob.
Yes.
You're making movies.
That's true. Okay, fair enough. 10-year-old Jacob would, because that was always the thing. And I'm curious about your perspective on this, because you're also in the arts and you've been for a while. And also as a kid, it's different as a writer or a director than someone who like, oh hi buddy. It's different from my perspective as a kid. It was like, I never had the thought of like, I love movies, I want to be in the movies. Do you know what I mean? Like, I saw a movie and it wasn't like, ooh, I could be like Will Smith in Men in Black. Like, you know what I mean? I could be like Jeff Goldblum in Independence Day. I said, I want to make Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I want to do that. It was an instantaneous thought for me. So to that degree, 10-year-old Jacob is definitely fulfilled, but like, I'm curious of like, you're in, like, as a child into this sort of, this world.
A friend of mine was in dance school and was like, do you want to go to dance? And I was
How
like,
old were you?
Yeah, 9.
9, okay.
And she was like, I'm taking hip hop. I was like, I want to take hip hop.
This is already an annoying story.
Because I started in hip hop.
Yes.
Like, no.
Because you're.
This is hip hop. Wait, you've never seen that video? Anyway, no. Let me focus.
What's happening?
But that's when I started realizing that I liked expressing myself with my body.
Sure.
And that was huge. And I didn't even think of acting or singing or a lot of the things, the way I storytell now. That was just like, like moving, and that was...
You could tell a story directly with the way that you're engaging with the world physically.
Yes.
And that is, I think, the opposite of me.
No.
Like, even as a kid, now, don't get me wrong, like, silly or Jacob, put a picture up right now, you know, of like me just like running around and like being a bit, to your point, goofy.
Yeah.
You know, I was definitely more open that way. But even at the height of like, okay with Jacob and his body, it wasn't the way that I never thought that's a way to tell a story.
Yeah.
You know, for me.
Yeah. It's funny, we are the body-mind connection. Do you know? Like, that is because my brain is always like a couple steps back or a couple steps forward.
Yeah.
I never fall on the actual, like, I'm either like speeding out and I'm like, whoa, I gotta like stop
But you're
myself.
a lot more...
But when I'm there, I mean, and even like, and we've collaborated in this way, or like looking at blocking, or like when we were co-directing and stuff like that, like, this shape and the way I can move the bodies into space, even if it's not my own body, I connect visually more than if like auditorily or like...
Yeah. And that's also, I think, one of the best examples of this is because I was always in film. The theater thing is a new thing for me. And we were blocking Black Glove at the Players Theater, and we were sort of like going through it.
Yeah.
And there was the scene where you and our kid, you meet up and you have to walk to the entrance. You talk and then you walk to the entrance. And then I'm like, she's walking so weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, no one has ever walked like this in their entire... And I stopped and I was like, what are you... And you couldn't put it into words, and we sort of realized you were trying not to show your back to the audience.
Oh my God, yes, I do remember this.
And I was like, that's not anything that like, we don't have to do that. But you were like, doing this, and I was like, this is so and but then cut to me doing theater.
Yeah.
It was the exact opposite.
Oh yeah.
Well, like, I'm just like, where's the cut?
Yeah.
Where's the...
It doesn't happen.
It does not happen.
Yeah.
And that was sort of like a weird, like, I was trying to like almost in a weird way explain to you the visual language of like storytelling and how you can, through a cut, imply so much and get your characters from point A to point B, no dialogue necessary. There's no need for them to do sort of like a cartwheel off stage.
Yeah.
And then your job is sort of like, let me know it's not always a stupid joke that I just did. You know what I mean? Like, there's a more elegant way of doing it in theater than just the dumb thing that I said.
Yeah, and it's actually exposure to film in the way that you've brought me into that world. I realized that there is a similar vein to that visual storytelling, and like I'm way more interested in films than I've ever been, because I'm like, it is body and space. It's just a different version of space, and like so that was huge for me. And
yes,
like,
it's the same shapes.
Yeah.
It's just that like the audience is always the camera.
Yes.
You know, and so don't get me wrong. Like you can cut to a close up. We can punch in. We can sort of like let's get the hands. Let's get the face. We can go to the wide and all these kinds of different things. Even cut to like look over there.
Mm-hmm.
I can cut to that. In a play, we cannot do this.
Yeah. No,
and so you have to do something a bit different. And I think we played around that when we did the short play festival.
Yep.
Of like, we started you guys off right by the audience.
Yep.
And then Max went over there. You guys went to the counter. We kind of really tried to play with this way.
Yeah, and I think actually I was really proud of that performance because I found a different thought process because of the way that you were directing that was like, I'm just going to translate my film stuff to this space, and even just hearing you and being able to be like, and this was after Black Love, so I already had that like,
right.
But being able to be like, what if I treated this right now like it was just a scene in a movie? And like where, you know, the audience is with me in the apartment and they're getting these like more micro detail expressions, and like I found that it actually was advantageous to my theater acting because I was like, oh, this creates a different like dynamic on the stage, especially being a two-person scene.
Sure.
You know.
Well, that's interesting because because you can cut to a close-up, you can also, not just with the face, do something more micro detail like you said. You can also keep the volume down.
Yes.
Overall, you know, you don't have to just, and that's one of my biggest criticisms, and it bleeds into film as well, but it's always shouting is drama. If everyone is shouting, you know as the audience, oh, this is serious. Oh my god, this is real.
Yeah.
This is and it's like, how many times in real life have people just like shouted at each other? It happens, don't get me wrong. Wait, you shout at people? But I feel like most interactions that are intense, it is quite you put all that shouting into this like into the line, you know. And it's obviously we're not doing broad comedy, so we can be a bit more incisive with our stuff, you know.
Exactly. Incisive.
What?
What is incisive?
Oh, you're asking me.
I was trying to do it silently.
Okay. Wait. Hold the phone. Here we go.
It sounds like incisors.
They share some of the same letters.
I thought you were gonna say like makeup.
Oh my god. Incisive, adjective, penetrating, cutting, an incisive tone or voice. 2, clear and direct, an incisive commentary.
Like your incisors. They cut through the food.
Are you for real right now?
The more you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. What are you talking about? But yes, no, we can be more incisive with, we don't have to paint in broad strokes is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
We can do something that is subtle. It can be, I feel like a lot of actors do have, and once again, like I said, we're not doing broad comedy.
No.
We do, or even musicals to some degree, like where you have to sort of like, the moment your emotions aren't contained in your speak, you have to start singing.
Yeah.
And that by definition is melodramatic, whether you accept the term or not. You know.
Yeah.
And so, for me, that's why I think I don't like musicals. Where I just feel like let's take it down a notch. Like, can we all just like chill for a minute?
Yeah.
You know.
I think I'm in theater history right now.
Right.
And like just watching a lot of this like really old school theater. That was the draw. Was this like, I'm giving you, you know, and so I don't know enough, and I don't want to sound dumb about it, so I'm going to say that I don't know. But like, I do feel like this more subtle undertone, like the human experience on a way of like somebody, a fly on the wall in a room.
Yes.
And that's just new for me too, because I was so drawn to musicals first, like, because after dance, that's how the cookie crumbled. I saw Phantom of the Opera.
Right.
And I was like, this is art. And I was like, this is, oh my god, I'm feeling so many feelings, and like that story in itself is just so dramatic, and like all of the gesture and all of this grandiose, and then the nods to opera. Opera is also another form of storytelling where it's these grand gestures, and so at least for me, it's more a more recent thing to be like, there's so much payoff to authenticity in acting, and like I had to separate that because for me the drama can be authentic because I'm dramatic, but like, are we kidding? But no, but you get
No,
what I'm
no,
saying.
no, I know exactly what you're talking about. No, it is, and that's also interesting because that is, to some degree, how you express yourself.
Okay.
And heightened emotions, obviously. This is not a day-to-day.
Highlight, italicize, and bold that word? Like, that was wild.
Obviously. Well, because it's not a 24/7 thing. It's like when you experience heightened emotions, so that also is what happens in movies and plays, is you sort of like jam-pack all the heightened emotions.
What's the most important day of their lives.
Yes,
right.
exactly. And also, the most important day of their lives can be, this is my friend Lucas's favorite thing, is like, if you can sort of like, it doesn't have to always be the end of the world. If all the characters have to do is go to the grocery store and get milk, but if you can sell that the characters believe it's that important, then you axiomatically sort of like sell all the rest.
Yeah.
It's like dominoes. The first domino is the audience has to accept the premise.
Yeah.
And you have to do whatever you have to do to get them
Establish
to.
that, yeah.
But once you do, knock those dominoes over.
Yeah.
And you can almost take that first domino, throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Because it gets so crazy after that.
And my brain doesn't work in curating those kinds of things. That's why, like, I'm always so impressed with your writing, and I'm just like your biggest fan. But no. But he's like, don't function that way. I'd rather have the material and be able to be like, I want to tell this story. And so that's why
Right.
I really like collaborating, because
Well, exactly. Well, we
That's
have
awesome.
different skills in that sense. I think also to that tune of the writing, and thank you for saying that, but two things. One, I don't know if I'm a genius, I'm a fan of geniuses. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely, like,
just
I
like a
love...
genius would say. Sorry.
I'm gonna come off so insufferable in this. But no, so I'm not a... I don't know if I'm a genius, I think I'm a fan of geniuses, and I think that I have religiously almost studied other people's works and sort of like, that's my favorite part of watching a movie or even a play, is that, like, obviously the watching of it and being invested in it. But I like, at the end of the thing, I get to like pop open the hood and see how the engine works. And I even talk to my friend Jesse about this, and he's a DP, and he'll like, he will study movies also religiously for like, okay, where's the light, like where's that highlight coming from, where the his favorite example is like there's a scene in Paris, Texas by Wim Wenders, and it's a parking lot at night, and it's all bathed in green, and he's watched this. He's like, where the is it everywhere?
Yeah.
Where is the green coming from? And I don't know if he has an answer. I'll have to follow up with him about this. But like that's the sort of thing. Like for me, I will, if there's a cut and I'm watching it, I will break my own personal viewing experience, and I will like I'll hit the little like the arrow back, and I'm like, what the like. Count like, okay, shot this way, and I'm like, I'll like count them, and I'll try to figure out, take screenshots, and I have folders of this just to sort of like even see without dialogue, how do you tell a story visually, to tie it back to the earlier conversation. And then also just like, Aaron Sorkin is one of my favorite dialogue writers. He has his own faults, don't get me wrong, like he has sort of his own pitfalls, and he gets so sentimental and treacly, and like, he's gee whiz in his own way.
Ask me again.
I'm sorry.
Ask me your idiot question again.
What makes America the greatest country in the world?
You do.
You know, to a fault, but when he's on, he's on.
Yeah.
What I like about his writing is he almost drops you into the middle of a scenario. So like the episode will open of like the West Wing, say.
I was just gonna say, what did he write?
But he did West Wing, he did The Newsroom, he did the Steve Jobs movie with Michael Fassbender.
Okay.
He wrote A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. The You Can't Handle the Truth. That's him. Yeah. So there's things like that, but he'll start an episode of The West Wing where it almost, yes, it seasons in, but I think you could start the whole show at that moment. And he gives you every piece of information that you need to know. You know how Josh feels about Donna. You know their working relationship. How does Josh defer to Toby and vice versa? Is Toby gonna just like beat everyone to death with a claw hammer over their mistakes?
This isn't the time, Josh. We're taking water over the side.
And I'm not indifferent to that, but there is a principle here that
No, there's not. Not this week. We've been doing this for a year, and all we've gotten is a year older. Our job approval's 48%, and I think that number's soft, and I'm tired of being a field captain for the gang that couldn't shoot straight.
But yeah, and I think that's what I try to do, is always start, like with Dracula, where like, yes, there's that little prologue with Harker that I'm trying to like even out in the drafts, but like it starts and it's just you guys, and through your dialogue you get the conflict. You get like Lucy's sick, Jonathan's missing, you're a bit headstrong, she's worried about you, you're worried about her, Seward's coming. You get all these things that you would technically have to start the play like 5 scenes earlier to truly set it up properly. You know, but you can do it as long as you embroil the dialogue in conflict of a disagreement, because then you get to explain.
And it's like cloaked exposition, right? Or is it just exposition?
Well, it is cloaked exposition because you sort of like smuggle it into the back door.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to have the scene where you're, you know, Seward's in his office, right? And you go, oh God, Lucy's so sick. I used to love her.
Yeah.
You know, please, you know,
action.
you can really sneak so many things into the back door that you didn't even think was possible. Do I need to have a scene where I intervene with your drinking problem, or you can probably more realistically vice versa? And, you know, or do we just cut to the bar at the end of the night and do like another one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we need all of it? Can we start there?
Yeah. And you know what's funny is like my brain works reading something like that. I'm like, I can pick all of that out of a text. Don't ask me to put it on paper.
Well, there's also, I'm not an actor. You know what I mean? I don't know how I would even begin to convey what I've just described back to somebody. You know?
Yeah.
I just know how I would structure it from the beginning. And like with Dracula, I've tried a whole bunch to put as much into the scene so you have like the maximum amount of exposition, but also the maximum amount, or what is the minimum amount of exposition that you need in the story to tell it properly to the audience versus what's the maximum that is just going to be like, you know, you go on an elocution safari where like everyone just starts to like, let's just like spitball all this nonsense out there.
There's a Teen Titans episode.
I've seen it.
Let me wait.
Okay.
Teen Titans Go, which is not Teen Titans.
Oh, I've not seen it.
To establish.
Okay. Then I have not seen it.
I was gonna say, wait. I was like, wait, let me.
I was on board for a minute.
For like 2 seconds.
Yeah. That's usually how long it lasts.
Yeah.
Instant motivation, I was 2 seconds behind. Oh no.
Yeah, that's it.
This will only help that particular condition.
Mr. B.
But Robin was like painted as
That sure smells booze.
But they talk about making movies. The whole thing's about making movies. And there's plenty of jokes in there like, this is worth it, like, kind of thing.
Okay.
But there's the whole thing where Robin's like, exposition! And, like, he's like, you need the exposition because you won't be able to get the story. And, like, they do it in that
he's not wrong.
But then everyone else is like, the exposition's so boring. You have to watch the episode because it's this kind of dialogue about, like...
I'll cut the clips.
Yeah,
so the
but
audience knows what we're talking about.
Funny. And, I'm sorry. But yeah, I just think that, especially coming off of this conversation, right? Like, where we need it, where do we not need it, where, and then...
It's also like, you can almost have, and I've seen it going the opposite way, a lot of indie films specifically, I don't know too much about the indie plays, but a lot of them, it's almost pure non sequiturs. You know, it's almost nothing but inconsequential nothingness, aimless, we're not going anywhere, we're not running from something, we're not trying to aim at a goal, nothing, it's just people in a vacuum discussing, you know, and I've written dialogue where I think in Just a Cockroach we talked about the movie Tremor, so I'm not immune to this, but it's like I stole that idea from Tarantino. He does this. They talk about pop culture all the time, but I've seen things where it's like the whole scene they're just talking about Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, does it thematically relate? Does it tangentially? What are we? And also, if that is the character trait, you like Scooby-Doo, I don't like Scooby-Doo. We can discuss that, but you gotta like.
But do you think everything needs purpose?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, where like, there's a time and a place. We can just have an aside, where we have that exchange. The moment it goes on too long, you just start doing the Wikipedia of Scooby-Doo. But no, there's I'm gonna get this wrong, so I'm gonna correct myself in the video, but I think Miyazaki has this, there's a Japanese concept called ma, which I don't know the direct translation, but it's this sort of like, Miyazaki loves this where it's not the whole movie is so purposeful. But there will be a scene where a character just will sit and look out the window as the rain falls. And that's it.
No, it's
but
like
there's a breather and there's a character
I was
thing.
gonna say pressure release.
Yes,
almost.
and we can just sit with the character as they do that sort of thing. The movie can't all be shouting, right? Because then if it's all loud, nothing's loud. You need the variation.
Oh, yeah.
And also, the movie can't just be fast or slow.
Yeah.
You need the contrast to appreciate the difference. And if there's a tension in it, you need that moment.
Yeah.
Or if we're always arguing in a dialogue scene expositionally.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, like I'm about to get a taste of my own medicine.
Yeah, you are. I know. I saw it. I saw you stopped dead. You were like, oh, she got me.
Oh, like, oh no.
But I'm kind.
But no, it's something where if it's that fluctuation, it's that sort of like it's that contrast. If the scene is like, if I'm writing a scene where I have to like jam pack, and I think the Lucy Mina scene is a good example. I have to convey to the audience so much information.
Oh yeah.
I need those little asides.
Yeah.
I need those moments of Scooby-Doo discussion to really break it up and really sort of like, because otherwise the audience just, it's gonna be boring, obvious, but worse, they can't keep track of all that information.
Yeah.
You have to smuggle it in. It's like you sort of have to like, it's like a kid, you have to hide the vegetables and the other food. You have to do this.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they'll just go, what the
I think it also takes pressure off the audience because if you're like, this is information you know, I'm presenting it in a way that this is information, and now they're like, I have to keep track. Whereas they're going to experience that scene, and I know I've read it, and I've read the story, and so I say this with conviction. They're going to experience the scene, and then later on be like, oh, that's where that was. That was.
You're never supposed to know what's being set up. I would even say, and I always just compliment Tarantino, and I still do, but he did that movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I haven't seen it yet. Okay. I'm on my Tarantino track, so it's coming.
Where are you, by the way, on the list?
Okay, so I've seen more than not. So the ones I haven't seen, Jackie Brown.
Oh, maybe his best.
So interesting. Somebody just told me the other day
maybe his best. Who said that? Don't listen to them ever again. Ooh.
So I'm gonna figure it out.
Figure that out, because that person is not to be trusted.
Ooh, the level. Oh, this is gonna be an interesting. This is gonna be.
It is not to be trusted. If you're watching, you. I will find you. And.
Oh my god. Pulp Fiction.
You've seen?
No.
Then what timeline are you talking about?
Well, I meant like I'm just catching up on all this.
Oh, you're just in random.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
It's not a timeline.
My timeline is random. Okay.
Wait, who are you, the boss of time? You can just do it at random?
We're gonna go on a different tangent if we continue this because there's multiple timelines and you jump them. Anyway.
Okay, back to my original point.
Yes.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is overall more of a good movie than a bad movie, but it's like it's him at his most indulgent, and no one I wasn't there. No one told him like, really, dude? Like, there's a whole scene, the worst scene in the movie. Damian Lewis, who was the dude from Homeland, if you saw that program with Claire Danes.
I know Claire Danes is.
That's a good start. It doesn't matter. He's playing Steve McQueen.
Okay.
Right, and there's a party, and a big subplot of the movie is Sharon Tate, played by Margot Robbie, who's a real person, who got murdered by Charles Manson and all that year. Right. She was married to Roman Polanski, and so instead of doing this subtly, they just have a Hollywood party, and Steve McQueen talks to a woman, I forget if it's a historical figure or not, and it's almost, there's a shot like this. They're sitting like this, looking at the camera, and he's pointing out, he's this, he's there, and it cuts to them, and it's almost like him just doing the Wikipedia. Of just like, Sharon Tate was married to him, and then he was her, and then all this, and it just keeps going, and I'm like, what the is this? You know what I mean? The movie has these beautiful scenes, and then it just will cut to that stuff. And you just think like, that's the exposition gone wrong.
I was gonna say, I've heard it's his slowest movie, and I could assume it's because maybe there's a lot of that. Like, do you think if he were to cut all of those things that you're describing?
Well, I would even suggest further. It's hard to talk to you because you haven't seen it, but he has to cut the Manson Sharon Tate stuff because there is a core. It's a hangout stoner comedy with Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth, played by respectively DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. There's stuff where they're just hanging out and he's like a washed-up stuntman and also actor, and they're failing. Al Pacino's like trying to throw him like Italian movies. And he's like, no, I'm a real actor. And I'm like, that's a thing. And it just keeps cutting to this Sharon Tate stuff. All because I think he wanted to do the murders? I don't know. But it's like, you have this really... if it was just the Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton stuff, it might be my favorite of his movies.
Oh,
it might be. It's just they keep breaking the pace, to your point. They keep breaking the tension. They keep breaking the irony and dramatic beauty of these... This is a washed-up actor and his stuntman.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a movie, and their chemistry is amazing,
Yeah.
and it's...
I gotta watch it. Maybe it'll be my next one.
And it just,
Anyway.
it's so...
I heard it's long.
All of the movies are pretty long. But it's half something that I would say, watch this to develop character, if you're a writer. Also, the other half is...
Oh, baby.
What?
But he's also Tarantino. He can do whatever the he
That's what I'm saying. No one told him.
She was engaged to him. And she flew to the UK to make a film with him. I broke off her engagement with him and married him.
And this is another thing of like, since we're running original stuff. I mean, we've done Shakespeare in the past, but we did put a spin on it.
Oh yeah,
but
and the way we cut and move scenes
around. The way we
around.
cut it and all that stuff. I remember even Max was saying that he got, I don't even know how they found him. Some person from his cheese shop went to him after Macbeth was like, why? He was like a Shakespeare nerd, and he was like, why'd you do this? And in a weird way, it's like some people are so like committed to the thing that as artists, I do think that we have to sort of like say, go f*** yourself if you're that committed to the text. That being said, you get too much creative freedom. It becomes the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it's like, you know, should Max have gotten like dug out for that? I don't think so. But also, you know, you unchain me and say, no one can tell me anything. No one give me a note. I'm so smart.
Yeah.
But there's it's a sweet spot that I don't know how to put my finger on.
The theme of today's conversation is balance.
Yes.
I mean, like,
what's the right level of arrogance I should have as a writer or as a director?
Well, because you need the confidence.
You do, but you kind of almost in a weird way have to have this. I don't know how anyone met. You have to say like, my it's great, so get on it or off.
Yeah.
But on the second hand, you have to have that doubt.
Well, you get a partner.
You know, sure.
Who's
gonna?
Well, who virtually has a completely different perspective of what, like, so the same end goal, two different roads,
right.
And then we get to be like, yeah, this is great. I'm going there too. Well, maybe we should make this left. Like,
no, sure. And that's also where it comes from, an honest dialogue.
Yeah.
It's not loaded with sort of like, and all that stuff. It
and
has to be
purposeful. I can't just be like, it's because I don't like it. Those are two different things.
No,
right?
Like, or I don't like you.
Yeah.
It has to be a genuine.
Yeah.
It has to constitute a genuine form of criticism.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's the hardest thing, and that's also why I don't want to send my gear to everybody. I want to send it to the people I trust.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? Well, like with Dracula, the first people I sent it to, I read it with Arcade, I sent it to you, I sent it to Dan, Jesse, Michael, Lucas, all these people. You know, as a curated group of folks, and then
and a vast of different
backgrounds,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Writers, directors, musicians, all these different kind of people.
Did you get similar feedback, or because you had such a varied output?
Well, overall, similar. Details were different. So overall, people had a general review of it as a unit. Individually, for example, Arcade harped on one particular scene that you didn't care about. You harped on a scene that Dan didn't care about.
Oh, that's so full.
So you kind of have these sort of diagrams where, like, let's say Dan was sort of like, I feel like this dialogue is a bit repetitious. You might Venn diagram with Dan, but on different scenes.
Yeah.
So overall, there's this.
That's so interesting.
You know.
Yeah.
And I think it's yes, I did the Just a Cockroach play, short play. this is not just the longest play I've ever written. It's the first play I've ever written,
Yes, it
and
is.
the longest thing I've ever written in general.
Yeah.
Like it's what, like 90 pages.
Yeah.
You know, and so really like trying to make that all sewn up and like even on either end was a real challenge. But like hearing you guys read it out loud was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I think that even though it is a story that exists and people are familiar with it, you have absolutely done such a good job of breathing new air into it, and even in the way that you use the dialogue. I'm
Well, thank you. Oh, that's also something that I wouldn't have. Yes, it has the name recognition.
Yeah.
I would not have chosen it if I didn't think I could have done that.
Yeah, oh no, for sure.
Meaning, if you say, like, can we do Frankenstein, for example? Fair enough. It's also free, technically, for the royalties. I have no clue what I've got to say about Frankenstein. And so I didn't go that route for a specific reason. I love the Dracula story. I love, one of my first favorite movies was Nosferatu, which is the classic 1920s F.W. Murnau silent film, and I remember watching that on DVD over and over again as a kid. And so this sort of definitely feels like full circle from that as well.
I've only seen him in the SpongeBob episodes.
Robert Eggers, who did New Nosferatu, was like saying like, "Thank you, SpongeBob, for like bringing awareness."
Oh yeah, and he's in so many episodes.
Is he?
Oh my God, he's in so many episodes.
I thought he was just in one.
Well, that was like the big one, but in the more modern stuff, and I wouldn't have watched that if I didn't have MJ. But they'll always be like, Nosferatu, and I'm like, I'm obsessed. I actually really want to see the new one. I haven't seen it yet. We should watch the old one together.
The old one's good, and that's that. Well, one, that was the insemination of film to some degree. Like, it wasn't the first movie, but like that is one of the first movies that sort of like had an authoritarian stamp, I guess. Separating the wheat from the chaff of what's a play versus what's a film.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Of like, why are we doing a movie specifically? Why am I not just doing this on stage?
Yeah.
That movie had something that strikes true today, I think, and it's still compelling, compulsively watchable.
Yeah.
You know, but no, that was always I had not this specific idea of Dracula, but like I've been obsessed with the story.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah, it's time.
It's time, and it's something where hopefully I can bring whatever it is I bring to the table.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I think it's something where, back to the dialogue conversation, there are themes in the play I don't know if that's the most important part to me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I was actually just talking, I'm in playwriting now too, I was just talking to my professor, and I was like, I struggle so hard with writing because I'm like, the overarching theme, and like, and then he was like, you write the story, the themes, they'll like, you said that to me too.
Yes, well that's also where like, I think that themes are great, and I think our Dracula has themes.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not the writer who comes to a story with like, I want to explore a theme.
Yeah, no.
You know, and I also see it as a trapdoor. Where I've met a lot of people who like are serious about movies, serious about film, serious about theater, who really care about the theme more than anything else. I've met enough writers and people who even consume media who care so much about the themes. I talked to Max's roommate Hannah about the Matrix sequels. I said I hate them. And she goes, why? And I said, well, look, the story's a bit stupid, right? The editing is all over the place. The pacing is ridiculous. The shots, you know, all the different ways I think you could construe what a film is. And then she goes, oh, well, did you not know that the film is a metaphor for X, Y, and Z? And I go, well, have they completely different conversations?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that she's wrong or I'm right, or I'm right and she's wrong. It's just we are coming at this from an axiomatically, fundamentally different perspective. It's sort of like film photography, right? You have people like William Eggleston who does street photography, and how do you grade his street photography versus even like historical photography of specific events?
Yeah.
Like there's all these beautiful shots of the civil rights movement, right? Depicting an honest to God historical event. Is it a good photo? Yes. But is it? Depends on who you're asking.
Why?
It's beautiful because it is showing Stokely Carmichael at the podium delivering the Free Huey P. Newton speech.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about different photos.
Yeah. Well, it's like when we cast Megan as
Macbeth.
Like, were we making a comment on a queer story? It's like,
yes.
Well, no, that wasn't the purpose. We weren't going in.
No, we did not make lesbian cowboy Macbeth. I remember trying to like think of who could be Macbeth, and I was not thinking of a woman at all.
Yeah.
It didn't even like occur to me until like she was doing it. I was like, you know what? This is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then the sociological sort of like societal implications come afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You have to grapple with them.
Yeah.
But that was not the offset of it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what does Dracula mean? I don't know. You'll have to come see it and you'll tell me about
Yeah.
it.
No,
You
totally.
know what I mean? My lips are sealed.
Yeah.
Like, you'll have to watch it and you go, you know what, Jacob? I think this is a metaphor for it. And I'll go, you know what?
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Smart idea.
Yeah.
I'll find out later what it means.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something that Screwdriver does really well is kind of like take these really beautiful novelties and tell the story within this kind of like filter of this world, and then so many people come back to us and they're like, wow, I really got so and so from that. And we're like, oh great. We were like, great, we're just actually really trying to tell the story well and kind of fun, and I'm so glad that it levels up in that way. Like
Well, I think it speaks to the timelessness of those stories.
Yeah.
That it can have a multivariate sort of interpretation.
Yeah.
Where Dracula, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. Macbeth, blah, 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 blah. So all these different things we've done. And I think that's the fun of it, is we're going to pick a specific interpretation of this timeless story. And then the audience gets to go, did you know what?
And we're like,
Yes, I planned this from the beginning.
I'm so glad you noticed.
Thank you.
This was great.
This was good.